peace, 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 peace. Peace, peace, peace. How y'all feeling? Y'all gotta get louder than that. How y'all feeling? Word. Dive into it. Woke up still tired. News saying something about my skin being a bullet suit. My mentor say them books, kid. Conscience say hope that degree bulletproof. I'm guilty till proven proof. What you know about your neighborhood going poof. Cops be cocking court dates like triggers. Bullets by ties and suits. Talk to a willow tree, her tongue looked out like a noose. Blackness got close relationships with nature. Southern leaves carry truth. I'm watching my lips. South Minneapolis, surveillance they kin. Black blood got a taste for concrete. Street curves become vitamins. Local magazines say these hooligans can't stop the violence thing. Family getting shot, quoting Plato's apology. They boots said forget him, then I know that boy was tired. His skin was so like a pillow. God's darker sons, most straight that teenage years for a halo. And I don't even be writing raptures, and sometimes the 90s talk to me. Pac was at that staff meeting, I swear he knew him behind me. With a scope, studying martyrs on what it means to be a ghost. We can't breathe, lungs full of Lauren Hill, I know why this genre smoke. Always to deal with trauma, little bro just started saying, nigga, just a coat. He partied like every week and smoked ganja, vibing to the weekend. I'm like, bro, you should read this essay. He like, I'm searching for freedom. I'm like, this system will love to kill you. Hell, they just searching for reasons. He like, my squad full of lost kings. We just searching for kingdoms. And this block look like a battle. This block look like a castle. Social media show warfare. My pencil look like a rifle. And I swear I tell my students our history something like ammo. Why you think they don't teach us or even try to reach us? They sending us off to war and hire our mothers as the cleanup. Black blood being bought, spilled, and bought off. Blink twice, my patience is gone. Now I'm staring you dead in your eyes and you looking lost. It's crazy when you say fuck the police and you know the law. We ain't ignorant, we very strategic. Better believe it from a history of freedom fighters use arms like paraplegics. And grandma say in the end, are they gonna talk about how you knew Jesus or how you resisted? I said I knew God and that's why I was highly committed. Never submitted, training revolutionaries with heavy intention. Young people need to know being alive ain't the definition of living. But Black history tells great stories of people building resistance within the village. Men, women, and children. Power to the people, we ain't your average civilians. And tell them my name was Keno when I'm not a superhero, nor a respectable Negro, educated from Blackness. Your study department can get that memo, I studied the hardest. You don't get it yet if you think I'm an artist. I'm here for more than mics, and I ain't interested in Congress, and I'm not interested in platform, not interested in performing. I'm only here for the universe and the rotation of comments. The revolution will not be online, you will not see Facebook comments. You will only hear a song, and it's been a long time coming in the wind. You will hear the wind. Now the White House is flowing by. A breeze got a hold, because as much as they love your money, they will much more love your soul. So y'all can keep your politicians, I'm trying to build a population. Because you can kill a revolutionary, but you cannot kill the nation. Peace, y'all. Hey.
Hi, my name is Dabney Meacham, and I'm also a co-founder of the Black Student Union on campus.
All right, so to hype you guys up, we're going to do a little chant, okay? So when I say Black Lives, you say matter. Black Lives matter. Black Lives matter. Black Lives matter. Black Lives matter. All right, so
can you guys hear me? Okay.
So we have a wonderful lineup for you guys. We're going to hear from Keno again, and then we have Don Sawyer Skyping in from Connecticut. We also have street dance organizer Shamel Bell. She's going to come and shake up the crowd. Then we also have, we're going to turn up, We're going to turn up with the lioness. She's going to close down the house, and that's pretty much what we're going to do tonight.
Unfortunately, one of our guest speakers couldn't make it here today. Daphne Jackson from Chicago got caught up in Grand Junction with some transportation issues. So unfortunately, she can't be here tonight.
But we're going to have a wonderful night, and I want to keep this energy up to thank everyone who's made this event possible. First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Autumn Moran. I am a representative from Student Union Productions, one of the sponsors of this event, along with Diversity Programming. I would love to give a special thanks to the woman who's made this all possible, Nancy Stoffer. Also, my advisor, Elizabeth Kalagian, she's helped so much along the way. There's another individual who deserves special attention. His name is Anthony Nocella. He has been the glue between everyone we're going to see on stage in FLC. He knows all of the artists who are going to come up here. So give a round of applause to Anthony as well. And I'd like to give thanks for all of the other organizations that have helped today with the different things that we've had going on all day long. The Black Student Union, Department of Sociology Club, Writing Program, the Theater Department, AmeriCorps, Environmental Center, Peace and Conflict Studies, Durango Save the Kids, Psychology Department, and all of the volunteers and presenters who are going to come up here tonight. Let's give them a round of applause. And lastly, and most importantly, I would like to thank all of you guys for coming out and showing your support for MLK Day, and everyone who's going to be presenting for us. So give yourselves a round of applause. So you heard from Keno Evol earlier. He's going to be coming back up on stage. He's from Minneapolis. He is a man of many talents. Not only is he a spoken word artist, Keno's a performer, educator, poet, dancer, and director. From his literary development program, or his literacy development program that has taken place in 4 schools throughout St. Paul and Minneapolis public schools, Crack the Page, shift the stage to his self-established clothing line. He participates in critical conversations centered around social injustice, with an entry point focused around blackness and the black diaspora. Don't know how to say the word, I apologize. He has received numerous grants and competed nationally as a spoken word artist. He has performed and taught workshops in places such as Los Angeles, San Francisco, Detroit, Washington, D.C., Arkansas, Minnesota, and New York. He has gone on to teach spoken word in high schools such as Washburn High, Brooklyn Center High, PUIC, Paladin Academia, Creative Arts, and John Glenn Middle School. So this man is very talented, and I'm very grateful, we're all very grateful to have him come up on stage, and he's going to wow you more so than I can, that's for sure. So give it up for Keno.
Yeah, bios and stuff. Word, now I gotta live up to that somehow. Yeah, how y'all feeling? Y'all good? That's what's up. Yeah, so I'm Keno Evol. I'm a poet. I work with language and young people and literacy and leadership through hip hop and the tradition of spoken word. And I love what I do. It's really rewarding. So. There's a number of ways we can do this. I believe in the pedagogy of the oppressed and in dialogue and engaging in conversation. So I'm going to perform some poems, we're going to have dialogue, and I'm going to just say some stuff. So, Martin Luther King. Yeah, what are just some words that come to mind when we think of Martin Luther King?
Revolution.
Revolution. Good word to come to mind. That's a good word. What else come to mind? Radical. Another good word. Inspiration. Compassion. Yeah. Non-violence. Word. Yeah, so a lot of folks, we come into this conversation about Dr. King in 1963. I Have a Dream. April 4th is when we typically talk about Dr. King. We don't really get into the 1967 Dr. King or the 1968 Dr. King when he speaks out against the war in Vietnam, and then the day, after after that, he's like condemned. His own organization isn't really supporting him at all. America really backed off of him, said that civil rights and foreign policy were two different things, and we didn't allow you to speak on foreign policy. But Dr. King, having the prophetic voice that he had, he didn't really care. He was really interested in justice and having a consistency when we talk about nonviolence. Why would America applaud him for being nonviolent in Selma, and then when it comes to Vietnam, right, condemn him for speaking out about that violence, right? So it's important to have a holistic conversation when we think about history, especially like the icon that Dr. King has become, in distancing ourselves from the Martin, who was the man who wasn't perfect, right? But bear witness to white supremacy, and he said you just have to put on your coffin clothes and just speak truth to power. And I'm going to perform some poems now and try to say some stuff. So I write a lot about my community and the communities I care about. Word. And these are just some poems that attempt to do that. Have you guys heard of verse journalism? So in 1965, a woman named Gwendolyn Brooks coined a term, verse journalism, the idea of the poet as a fly on the wall. And hip hop does that. Hip hop is a form of verse journalism, I believe. In this, I'm going to perform a verse journalistic piece. So this is about an event that happened in my community. A woman, 22 years old, was hit by a stray bullet. She survived. Her daughter survived. She was also hit on Chicago and Franklin. And this is a poem for her. The functions of gardens. Also, if you hear something you like, let me know. God, if the verb today is buried, then give me the good soil. The kind that tells Dante's mother to be careful with the kale. The kind that remembers the name of every seed it swallows. There was a day in June where Chandrea was a mother and not a metaphor for a garden. Where we were all late on rent, so we figured PV Park made things less late. See how all things black is as well all things loud, and loud is not to suggest a gunshot. A scramble of people, your niece fighting your goddaughter, but it is to suggest a too loud stereo. Andre 3000 is saying something too loudly about the Georgia sun and the spine of Georgia women are too loud people, and all is and is now, and there is no how did or when did or where did. There was a day in June where Chandrea had two hands not clutching something that was once moving, not picking out the best passage from the Corinthians to describe the grief, where her hands were only two hands placed on a stroller, and in the stroller is a child. That is just a child, and not a metaphor for a seed or a song or something prayed over to rise, but alas, this is the hood, and in the hood we need more gardens and less metaphors for them. Yeah, so one of my favorite black women in history said that freedom is no fear. Nina Simone said that, right? And I think that's brilliant, right? Because it's like, when we think of freedom, what do we mean by freedom? How can we locate freedom, right? When people say that Malcolm X was a free black man, what do they mean by that? Or Martin Luther King, or Gwendolyn Brooks, or Audre Lorde, right? When freedom is no fear, right? It allows one to prioritize their own agenda in spite of capitalism, in spite of white supremacy, in spite of transphobia, in spite of homophobia, right? To only speak truth to power, right? And that's a daring thing to do. It's a unique thing to do, right? You know, and people catch on to it, right? It's a spark, right? You know, if, you know, Malcolm X gets assassinated in 65 and the Black Panther Party gets started in 66, and one of his last speeches was the Ballad of the Bullet, it carries, it has ripples effects, right? So it's important to pay attention to these histories, right? I bring up Malcolm. I'm gonna perform a piece that I wrote about Malcolm. So I do a couple things in this poem. Do folks know Zora Neale Hurston?
Yeah.
That's what's up, y'all should. That's what's up. No fear, right? She wrote a book. What is one of her like primary? I know it's hard because she works for her now. Their eyes were watching God, right? I wrote a sort of fictionalized account of what if Zora and Malcolm met. What would happen? What would happen?
Explosions.
Word. This is called Zora Sees a Gun. Damn. Zora Neale Hurston just missed the 60s. The scene is Zora, while thinking of guava juice is available this late on Lenox Avenue, stumbles into a voice collapsing a crowd who knows by now the promise of fruit, who knows by now the authority of bullets. Look how all the grandparents spill their smiles. Ain't he heard of Marcus and all of his stars? Ain't he heard of how quickly cargo comes, then police, then gone? And him, this newfound Harlem, saying something about ships, about fruits, forgiving all of our Thursday nights of liquor, saying something about how his last name is unknown, being X. And how our beauty is enough to have prisons eat our entire blocks, and how we all be cheated on women who deserve to bury and burn anything in the front lawn. Zora, having known the taste of gasoline, looks up to this blurring cloud and overhears a grandparent say, "Beautiful young man, I don't know if he knows the weight of his water, but that sun is gonna fall. And we all gonna be running out of the flames lit, not knowing if our eyes were watching some kind of God." Do we wanna? I'm gonna perform a few more poems. Do we wanna have a brief Q&A about the two poems that you heard so far? The Functions of Gardens, or Zora Sees a Gun, or my beginning piece. Just thoughts that come to mind. Where does that come up? Questions about writing process, or just what are you guys thinking about? Any questions that come to mind? To start a brief dialogue in the audience. Yeah.
How long have you been writing?
How long have I been writing? Like 6th grade. Hip hop was the starting point. I'm adopted into a white household, so growing up, I naturally had a lot of conversations, and in hip hop, people posed questions. So like hearing Tupac say, "Do they love me, mama? Why they keep on calling me nigga? Get my weight up with my hate and pay them back when I'm bigger. I'm still thugging in this jail cell, missing my block. Hearing brothers screaming all night, wishing they stop. Proud to be black, but why we act like we don't love ourselves? Don't look around, sucker, check yourself. Knowing what it means to be black, whether man or girl, we still struggling in this white man's world." So being 10 years old in my bed and hearing that, and not really knowing who, like, you know, Mumi Abu Jamal was, or Fred Hampton, but knowing that someone was posing questions I could relate to, really was a starting point of a lot of conversations. So I started writing in the 6th grade around hip hop was the starting point. Any other questions? Or things that people are thinking about?
Where are you from?
Yeah, so I was born in Chicago, but I lived most of my life in the Twin Cities. In Minnesota is where I know, specifically South Minneapolis. I spent 3 years in Florida. But yeah, I'm from the Twin Cities.
I just noticed one of the pictures was of the bark.
Yeah, the fourth.
And that's where I'm from Oakland,
No doubt.
Brookville area.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, so the fourth precinct shutdown. Do folks know about the fourth precinct shutdown? So in the span of 19 days, I believe, in 19 days, the community took over a precinct, and they had like banners, and they took a stand, right? And I was there, and a lot happened over those days, right? So we had a lot happen over those days. We had an example, and I wrote a statement on it called a statement on magic and resistance, and this idea of magic being connected with a phenomenon, right? The resiliency of oppressed people. But yeah, so I was there, a lot happened. You saw like food being offered, brought about free food, and you saw gloves, and you saw heat lamps being donated, and you saw free knitting classes, because it's cold. That's brilliant, you know what I'm saying? So you saw free education spaces, you saw campfires, you saw local folk in the community who would be categorized as gang members or thugs, talking about bartering systems, and like, how do we survive in this thing, right? And that was beautiful, and I think it taught the community a lot. Any other questions before I get into some more poetry? Yeah.
Seems like you make a lot of connections that maybe the rest of us wouldn't think of, like Zora and Malcolm X. So does that just come to you? Do you sit quietly? Do you meditate?
Word, I do meditate. I believe in imagination, and I'm writing for a journal out of New Jersey called An Argument for Imagination in the Classroom. The last words of Harriet Tubman were, "I go to prepare a place for you." The idea that the work is never finished, the idea of imagining a place. Martin Luther King said the mountaintop, but imagination is critical, especially in ties to social justice, because we have to believe that capitalism is not the best of the imagination of the human being, right? That there are other things that can work, that suffrage is not natural. There were slave masters who thought the institution of slavery was natural, like leaves, right? And there were enslaved men and women and folk who thought slavery was also natural. We cannot succumb to that. We have to believe that there is something else. So imagination is important, right? So I imagine, what if Zora Neale Hurston, who died in 1959, who never saw the Black Arts Movement, who never saw the Black Panther Party, who never saw Malcolm speak. What if she saw Malcolm speak? What would that be like? What would that moment be like, right? So I believe in imagination a lot. I think it's so important. We have to be creative. And creativity being imagination applied, right? Any other questions? Cool, so I'm gonna read some more poems. Are y'all still with me? Y'all still good? Yeah. For North Minneapolis, an attempt at neighborhood. Do I want to say, be gone to the chaos? Then must I too say, be gone to the crumble of buildings. Them just be all reminding of ninth grade friends, dissolving, as if the concrete is a tongue, as if the rain makes simpler of the dissolving, the kindred children. Police, be all liking of the rain's work, perhaps to the bulb of bullets I also must say be gone. Them, light of all things that move before Broadway Avenue, and there sometimes I go. Within the minutes of unreached sleep awake I go. On the soonest bus heading north, I think perhaps of a song. One that speaks on the process of keeping. One that speaks on the summer joy rekindled in Jordan's throat. We never thought a laugh could ever escape again. It happened, standing in a cipher, within a grouping of brown boys making bars out of the ropes of gold. We would soon touch, and all the brown girls in our neighborhood kissing all over the crumbling of our skin, and how we speak of all we want. If the wanting is to reduce the chaos, what loud sound has to vanish? Jordan's niece was laughing as loudly as the boy's bars about broken booze and gospel before a bullet coughed and made sick an entire body of bricks that looked a lot like a brown boy running towards a dissolving daughter. If I say be gone to the crumble of buildings, am I then saying be gone to the boys? Don't they need something to lean on? Post up, hold up their weight, or else aren't they gone? Or else don't they fall? Word, how am I doing on time? I'm a poet, I have most of the time. Keep going. All right. One of my favorite quotes by Malcolm X is, who are you? You don't know? Don't tell me Negro. What were you before the white man named you a Negro? Where was yours? What was your name? And why don't you know now what your name was then? Who took it? And where did he go? How did he take it? It's not verbatim. What was your name? It could have been Jones, Butch, Smith, or Powell. They don't have them kind of names where you and I come from. What was your name, right? Why is that one of my favorite quotes? Because it speaks on identity and the importance of researching, and I was speaking about this earlier, researching your own politic, right? What positionality do you have on capitalism? Okay, so you have a position on capitalism. What is your position on racism? What is your position on being cisgendered? Knowing that trans folk are killed by the police as well. What is your position on the rights of the queer community, right? But in xenophobia, right? So interrogating our own politic is especially important, right? Because we have to know what our principles are and what our values are, right? Where do we fit in the thing? We all have a role to play in the movement, right? But it's like, where, in what way do we do that, right? Back at home, I do this thing called the Free Black Table Open Mic, where it's a performance open mic, and the public is welcome, but the stage is reserved for people of color and black folk. So no white folk can sign up. And it's called the Free Black Table, right? And then, you know, and then I had a conversation with my mom about it, and she was like, well, that's racist. And it's like, nah, it's not. You know, it's not. What is the definition of racism?
Power plus prejudice.
Right? Power, right? Plus prejudice, right? You know, I could be prejudiced, right? But I don't have the power to be racist, right? And in the context, we have to take history into that context, right? Because open mics are literally open. So what does it mean to, in this space, say that only black folk can sign up, or people of color? So I have that, and then the event switches, and then it's black women only sign up, and I don't host it, right? Because it's like, what does it mean to say that in this stage only black women can speak, right? So it's and how does art play into that, right? And why did I bring all of that up? Creativity, imagination, racism, and poems I'm about to perform on all those things. Word. A strategy for maintaining life between 31st and 38th Street. And can you expect a casket somewhere in this poem? A shoelace evicted from one shoe, probably the left, probably from the acceleration of that much chest carrying the boys. A well-paid college graduate will say the cop said freeze. He has good diction, especially on the word gun. The neighborhood, fill in a block that has the word cuts in the title of its barbershops. Fill in a block that has a memorial of Pac. On the same block, it has a shrine for a boy whose name begins with a J. Fill in Jamar or Jacob. And can you expect a sign surely with a name, surely equipped with a song? And can you expect said brown boy to be well versed in 2 songs, one that comes with birthdays and one that comes with a brochure? And the lyrics of said church song replace the name of whatever saint who died to build this church with that of the boys. And can you expect for us to know the song as we know the skull? For there to be a collapsing black woman spilling her skin all over the casket, not caring about the song or the saint who died. And can you expect a change to the concrete? The amount of patrols police make before 5 p.m. If not that, then some time. I suggest the calendar for the boys. If not that, then here. Let's start with the names. We should not start the first letter of our son's name with one who has been buried. I've always liked the name Cordell or Deshaun. It's too bad about your mom. That always had a nice ring to it. Questions? Any other questions or dialogue? Things that came up for you? Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say that racism is not about skin color. Racism is a global system. And that's just what it is. It's not about skin color. It's global. It's a global thing. It's on another level.
And to think about who racism targets, right? Like who is in the scope.
The power. You was talking about power. Who got the power? I can't be racist because I don't have the power to be racist.
Right. You know, where did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do you respond to, I've heard the comment so many times, especially when we're looking at all of the students that have protested and held demonstrations across the U.S. recently. How do you respond to the comment that these young people are just being too sensitive, or these communities are just being too sensitive?
Yeah, Malcolm X said emotional. They call you emotional when you speak out about racism. It is emotional. I'm sensitive as hell. This shit is crazy.
Yeah.
Audre Lorde said, I fight racism because I'm angry. Let's validate anger. She also said life is a feeling process. The moment when we detach ourselves from emotion, what are we? We are human beings, right? Who are buried, right? It's emotional. So yeah, it is sensitive. Yeah. You know, Tupac was hella sensitive too. You know, Dear Mama, like, you know, Brenda's got a baby, you know. He felt a lot. We have to feel things. For those who say we are too sensitive, I would question them on their connections to their just like hearts and like what are they afraid of? You know, yeah.
I guess I would say I'll be sensitive because when I'll be trying to get back to where I came from, to like you saying, who took your name, who took your identity. So the thing is to get back to where you came from, to get your identity, to know where you came from, and if everybody themselves study where they came from, and then we can come together and have a peaceful dialogue.
Yeah, and you will know that you're not in a vacuum, that your struggle is not happening in a vacuum. If you're afraid to walk home in your community at night, you're not alone there. There's entire like essays written on, you know, on that, right? Starting with the like Combahee River Collective out of Boston, right? In this collective that document the murders of black women, right? So it's important to know from whence you came, to know that you're not alone. Writing shows that struggle is a common experience, because it is a common experience, right? And when you realize that, you're not alone, and you feel empowered, right? Word. A few more questions, and I'll close out.
It's not really a question, it's more a statement. I'm more comfortable walking the streets of East Oakland by myself than I am being beat up by a CHP officer for not taking any advancements. A Caucasian CHP officer.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
Beat the crap out of me.
Word.
But nothing I can do.
Word.
I'm Native American. I have daughters that are half black, half Native. Nothing I can do.
Right.
But I can walk the streets of East Oakland and be fine.
community, right? And like protection, right? And in the social relationship of fear, there's a system in place that ensures certain fears are kept, right? So when we say freedom is no fear, understanding freedom as a social relationship, right, is important, right? I'm gonna perform one more poem that I got here. Where I never thought I could talk for that long. I really didn't. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna say. Okay. One second. Writing poems on iPhones. This is what I.
Throw it away.
Yeah.
Cell phone crack.
Yeah. Right. This is a new poem that I wrote. Oh my gosh, where is it? It's written in a very strict form called the pantoum. It's line structure. So the poet, didn't get to choose where the lines fell. I was following them back. It's called Picking and Digging. Perhaps it's none of my business what happens after we die. The earth is not a terrorist, neither are names. The universe is just a black woman's afro. We all get picked out. The earth is not a terrorist, neither are names. Hurricanes don't want more oil. Katrina was a brown girl crying. We all get picked out. We need you to show up to the riot well rested. Hurricanes don't want more oil. Katrina was a brown girl crying. Tamir was a brown boy. BB gun and imagination. We need you to show up to the riot well rested, though I'm not sure what good it is to be dead. Tamir was a brown boy, BB gun and imagination, protecting perhaps what could have been a brown girl crying. Though I'm not sure what good it is to be dead, brown graves make good for good songs. Protecting perhaps what could have been a brown girl crying, Malcolm said something about an army, didn't he? Brown graves make good for good songs. We keep burying choirs. Malcolm said something about an army, didn't he? Perhaps it's none of my business what happens after we die. We keep burying choirs. The universe is only a black woman's afro. Peace out.
Sorry for the long pause, it's not meant to be awkward. We are waiting for someone to Skype into us. This is a professor from Connecticut, so he's Skyping in all the way from Connecticut. He's a busy man, and we're waiting to see on that. But as well, how are you guys feeling about tonight? Can I hear some responses from the crowd? Now that I have your attention, we have a big crowd. I would like to inform you of some other events that we have taking place this week. So not only are there social justice-minded events today on Martin Luther King Day, I thought that it was important to carry this out through the week. So tomorrow and the next day, there's going to be something called Social Justice Week. These posters are up around everywhere you see over here, and you can read them on your way out. What Social Justice Week is a way to continue these social justice issues in educational and informative and fun ways. There's going to be multiple different workshops, and I will refer to those later if it seems that we're ready for this. And this is going to be Anthony, who I gave thanks to earlier, introducing our next guest.
Hello everybody, thank you so much for everyone coming out. I get to introduce a dear friend of mine. Don, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to introduce you, and you have approximately about 20-25 minutes to talk about your wonderful work. Don is originally from Harlem, but on the bio it says he's from New Haven, Connecticut, but I know he would probably be representing Harlem, and we'll be talking a little bit about that. He's a current faculty member in the Department of Sociology at Quinnipiac University in Hamden, Connecticut. His research interests are in urban education, visual sociology, youth culture, hip-hop culture, qualitative methodology, youth critical media literacy. And he says, I believe in the practice of public sociology and plan to ensure that most of my research projects are in participation with local communities, and I know that is very true. He works with youth in the community inside and outside of incarceration. I've worked with him for over 5 years, if not more, and he's everything that hip hop is. And there's so many people around hip hop that speak and rap and do spoken word and break dance. And Don will be talking about why people do it and how he does it, as well as articulating the politics around hip hop. So without any further ado, thank you so much, Don, for being here.
Thank you. So everybody can hear me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm in my basement, AKA my studio. And so what I wanted to do is start off with a letter that was written over 50 years ago. And it's very relevant to what we're facing now, what we were talking about in 2015, and what's going to be going on in 2016. This is an excerpt from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his letter from a Birmingham jail, which was written on April 16, 1963. And I'll just have a quick excerpt of it, which I think is important for this program and the work that needs to be done throughout 2016. We have waited for more than 340 years of our constitutional and God-given rights. The nations of Asia and Africa are moving with jet-like speed toward gaining political independence, but we still creep at a horse and buggy pace toward gaining a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. Perhaps it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait. But when you have seen vicious mob lynch your mothers and then fathers, and at will drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, and even kill your black brothers and sisters, when you see the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society, when you suddenly find your tongue twisted and your speech stammering as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter why she can't go to the public amusement park that has just been advertised on television, and you see tears welling up in her eyes when she is told that Funtown is closed to colored children, and see ominous clouds of inferiority beginning to form in her little mental sky, and see her beginning to distort her personality by developing an unconscious bitterness toward white people. When you have to concoct an answer for a 5-year-old son who is asking, Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean? When you take a drive across country and find it necessary to sleep at night in the uncomfortable corners of your automobile because no motel will accept you. When you are humiliated day in and day out by nagging signs reading white and colored. When you find your first name becomes nigger, your middle name becomes boy, however old you are, and your last name becomes John, and your wife and your mother never get the given respect and the title of Mrs. When you are harried by day and haunted by night by the fact that you are a Negro, living constantly at a tiptoe stance, never quite knowing what to expect. And you are plagued with inner fears and the outer resentments. When you are forever fighting a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. There comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over, and men and women are no longer willing to be plagued and plunged into the abyss of despair. And I think that part of the letter is important as we think about what we are talking about today. Hip-hop activism, we're talking about Black Lives Matter, and we're talking about the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And one of the things that I like to say is that I grew up reading Dr. King's speeches, and so early on, I realized that Dr. King was not the Santa Claus version that they try and make him today. right? This good, jolly, happy Negro fellow that just wants everybody holding hands, running on the quad, and jumping in the leaves in the fall, and just singing Kumbaya, right? We understand that that's not Dr. King. When I was young, I used to think that Dr. King was soft, right? I thought I would most likely join the team of Malcolm X because Malcolm X spoke the truth. He was more militant, but as I got to know MLK, I got to realize that he wasn't necessarily just this pacifist that people make him out to be, that Dr. King and his theoretical stance was very revolutionary. And I've come and I've grown to respect him over the years for the revolutionary that he is, and I think it's important for us to tell the whole story of who Dr. King is, what he meant, what he stood for, what he was against. And I think that's key. And so in the letter to a Birmingham jail, I think that's tied ever so deeply to what we talk about when we say Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter movement, right? And so a description from the Black Lives Matter movement website says that Black Lives Matter is a unique contribution that goes beyond extrajudicial killings of Black people by police and vigilantes. It goes beyond the narrow nationalism that becomes prevalent within some Black communities, which merely call on Black people to love Black, live Black, and buy Black. Keep it straight, cis Black men in the front of the movement while our sisters, queer, and trans and disabled folk take up roles in the background or not at all. Black Lives Matter affirms the lives of Black, queer, and trans folks, disabled folks, Black undocumented folks, folks with records, women, and all Black lives along the gender spectrum. Essentials, though, have been marginalized within Black liberation movements. It is a tactic to rebuild the Black liberation movement. And I think that Dr. King, if he were alive today, he would not be questioning Black Lives Matter. He would understand the need for Black Lives Matter and understand the importance of people outside of Black males who have been instrumental to the movement, right? It wasn't just the Black men who were in the forefront, but it was Black women. It wasn't just heterosexual Black males. There were queer Black males and Black women who were a part of the movement. So I think it's important for us to understand how Dr. King's legacy is connected to today. And so the part of the thing that I work on is hip-hop activism. As Anthony mentioned, I do a lot of work with youth who are incarcerated and youth who are semi-incarcerated in urban schools of today. Right now I'm working in Connecticut. I just came back from Barbados where I was working with a program to develop positive youth programming for youth who are in a government school, which is a form of juvenile detention. Some of the youth who are there have offended. Some of the youth who were there have been abused by their families and ran away. So since they ran away from home, they were picked up by the cops, and since they had no other place to put them, they sent them to the juvenile detention facility even if they have not offended. And so we're kind of working on some hip-hop activism movements within Barbados now to see how we can kind of change the minds of the larger Bajan community as it relates to hip-hop, as it relates to activism, as it relates to leadership and positive youth programming. And so one of the things that I asked Anthony to do is, or if I can take a question, because I hate just like rambling here. Like I would like to be there in the room with you and like feel your energy, and it's hard to do through Skype. And so if anyone, some of the people sitting in front or anyone has a quick question that can kind of kick off this discussion and we can go from there. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all said yeah enthusiastically, so where's the question?
Oh, my mind right.
How long have you been involved in
Can
all
you
this?
hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you when you yell. Yep.
Ask your question.
How long have you been involved in all of this?
Well, I like to say I've been involved in all of this since I was around, I want to say 12. I was 12 in 1988, so I'm not sure if you know of the rapper Big Daddy Kane. Big Daddy Kane in 1988 drops the album Longer Than the Kane, and my life was forever changed because I studied Longer Than the Kane and I started to develop my own voice through hip hop culture. The other thing that was happening in 1988, if you think back to that time in Harlem, we were in the height of the crack cocaine epidemic. And so a lot of my friends got caught up in the drug game. But instead of getting caught up in the drug game, I was writing. I was listening to Big Daddy Kane, I was writing on his lyrics, and I started to pick up my own pen. I started to write my own lyrics. And so hip hop is what saved my life. I was an MC, I was a B-boy, later on I became a DJ. And so the fact that I was trying to perfect that craft kind of kept me out of trouble. I was also fortunate that my mother, even though she never finished school, she dropped out of high school, my father dropped out of high school. When I had, tantrums and I had a temper, I would always be fighting. We had Medicaid at the time, we didn't have, regular insurance, and so they took me to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist was like, there's nothing wrong with him, he just needs to know how to channel his anger, his frustration of losing friends, things of that nature. So they told him to put me in a martial arts class. And so between martial arts and hip hop, that's what saved my life. And so when I got the platform to be able to do the work, you get a degree and all of a sudden people start to listen to you, even though I was saying the same stuff before I had a degree, right? I began to use my platform to work with kids who were in similar predicaments, right? People who were in single-parent households, people who were caught up in the system, caught up in the drug game, people who were marginalized and pushed away by society as those who wouldn't make it. And so that became the target that I was working with. And it became important for me because if I didn't know about Martin Luther King, if I didn't know about Angela Davis and people like that, I would not have had an idea of what I could be and who I could become. And if it wasn't for people who gave me second chances, third chances, and fourth chances, I would not have been where I am today. Plotting out my life, thinking back then, in 1988, did I see myself being a sociology professor? Absolutely not. I saw myself being the victim of the statistics at the time that I would either be dead by 18 or possibly, selling drugs or in prison. But because of the knowledge of people like Dr. King and people who poured into my life, that's the thing that got me set on a positive path, and that's why it's important for me to dedicate all of my time and whatever resources I can into making sure that others can live out their dreams and become the best person that they can be. So that's a long way of saying that that's how long I've been involved in this work. And so in Connecticut, the work started where I was given a presentation in New York City. One of the principals from the school in Connecticut happened to be in my session and asked me to come to her school because they were having issues with Black and Latino males who were dropping out of school, by like sophomore year. And so I went to the school and they were like, could you develop something? I was like, I do work with hip hop. Would you mind if I do something with hip hop? And they were like, well, no. I was like, so who are you going to give me to do this work? And so the school was broken down into 5 different sections. And so they said we're going to give you 5 of our most troubled youth from each section. So it's supposed to be 25 of their most troubled youth in the school that were going to be a part of my program. And so I'm like, okay, cool, this is going to be an after-school program, right? And then they're like, no, it's going to be at 9 in the morning. And I'm like, you just said they don't come to school, so why in the hell do you think they're going to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning, right? And so the first day I go through the metal detectors and security and all that stuff, and the principal was like, okay, we're going to go to the classroom. I want to apologize if no one shows up. Again, they usually don't come to school this early. And so we get to the room at about 8:55 in the morning, and all 25 students were there waiting, right? And so she was a little bit surprised that they were there, but they were ready to get busy, right? And so first thing I started out with, I was like, how many of you are writers? None of them raised their hand. I was like, well, how many of you are MCs? And a number of them raised their hand. And so we got into a cipher and started to have them share and spit some of their verses. The next week comes, the principal is out, so I go to the room by myself, and there's 44 students there waiting for me, right? We only supposed to have 25, and then there were 44 students. It was just me. And so I talked to the principal, was like, where would these students be if they weren't in this classroom? She said they would either not be in school or would be running the hallways. And so I said, let's keep them in this room. So, fast forward, we've been doing this for 3.5 years. And so every student that has stayed in this program with me over this time, even though they weren't supposed to, even though they were set up as the people who wouldn't make it, all of them have graduated, right? Every single one of them has graduated. They stayed in the program. so I think that was important, right? And so it was setting up a space that allowed them to understand that they were valued, right? People didn't think that their humanity was respected, and if you or I, if we don't think our humanity is being respected, we're not going to engage in that space. And for them, this space was school, so their humanity wasn't being respected in that place. And so once we start to, just do basic things and start to do these writing assignments, teaching them the art of writing and channeling their pain through hip hop, through lyrics, through video production, through beat production and different things like that, we started to see changes. And so the principal printed out, some of the data for me. And so what she showed was that the students who were in the program, she started to see their grades rise, right? So students were getting Fs, so they didn't go from Fs to A's, right? They went from Fs to like C pluses. But granted, it's not A's, but I would say go from an F to a C plus. That's a big change. The other thing that we saw is that attendance started to go up in school, and disciplinary referrals started to decrease. And so that is why she kept the program going for the past 3.5 years. NPR came in and talked about the program. NBC, local news came in, to kind of find out about the program, and we have other schools who want to be involved. But at the moment, we don't have the budget for that, right? So, but fast forward again, real quickly, my university, I pitched the idea to my dean because we have a lot of vacant properties that we own, that I wanted to develop a youth social justice and hip hop institute. I submitted a brief proposal. He said yes. Then I went to the provost to ask if I could have space. I wanted space since we had this vacant space. And he said the possibility is there, and so said yes. And so now I have to submit them this budget request, an equipment request, and they'll send that out to the marketing and development team to start raising money for this hip hop and social justice youth institute that we're going to be starting, hopefully at the end of the spring semester. So it's, things are moving, and we're hoping to impact a lot of lives through the use of hip hop activism and applied sociology.
I'm curious about your response, and I think you explained it to a degree, like what you're doing, but I'd also like to know your opinion with the direction that a lot of mainstream hip hop has taken today, like as far as in order to make it with a big record label, they need to often depict themselves as just money and hoes and like that sort of thing. Whereas like you were very inspired by maybe more authentic hip hop, like root hip hop from an earlier time, and so was our former speaker. So what is your opinion on that, and also maybe how can you help the sort of work that you're doing reach a larger audience rather than having activist, like social justice hip hop be more of a subcultural thing?
I think I heard the question. One of the things I would say is that I never get into real versus fake hip hop, because I think hip hop is hip hop. And for me, do I think some hip hop is garbage? Absolutely, right? And so some of the students in my class, for instance, they loved, like at the time, they loved French Montana. And in my head, I was like, yo, French Montana is garbage, right? And so we would bring in lyrics. I was like, okay, let's do a lyrical analysis. So I would bring in lyrics of someone, and they would bring in lyrics of French Montana, and they would try and do a lyrical analysis of one of his popular songs at the time, and it was like damn near impossible, because it wasn't a lot of lyrics. But then I learned, and then I thought to myself, I was like, I can't demean their culture, right? So by me saying that, real versus fake hip hop, I'm shutting them out. I'm doing the same thing that I didn't want the schools to do. So we start to talk about being media literate, right? And talking about critical media literacy and having them analyze the messages that are being sent to them through these artists that they want to emulate, right? Asking them like, what values are being sold to you through the use of French